Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Wonderful. We are
Good.
recording and we are going to engage in a wonderful conversation on
hmm
glycoscience. And this is part
hmm
two of our
Part
series.
two.
Yep,
All right.
very excited about our first. And we encourage our listeners to, when the recording is posted, to please tune into it. It was almost an hour
That's right.
that that we chatted yesterday.
It was only an hour. Well, we covered a lot of ground yesterday.
We sure did. We sure did.
Well, let's
So,
see what we can get into today.
exactly. One thing I want to mention is that one main significance of the study of glycoscience is how multidisciplinary it is. From the book, Transforming Glycoscience, it says, quote, glycoscience is a global field with a dedicated community of researchers in the United States and abroad.
The researchers that actually wrote up that book came from all over the world, from Japan and from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how many different countries, but there were, I believe, 8 or 9 of them, and
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
they literally were the top of the cream of the crop from
Mm-hmm.
all different countries around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
isn't just a small little outfit uh, that wrote this up. It's actually an incredible diverse group
That's right.
that wrote it up that are all picked by the National Academy of Sciences. And from what I understand, the National Academy of Sciences uh, only associates with the top scientists in the world. So
Right, the
that's
cream of the crop. Look, I'm looking
that's the
here.
cream of the crop.
One is from Taiwan and the Scripps Research Institute.
Really?
So, yes, and we know Scripps is extremely integrative and researching natural. So, yeah, I find that very interesting.
I
Um,
believe that we talked a while back and found that Scripps actually has an annual meeting on glycomics. So they're very
mhm,
much involved in
mhm,
putting forward the whole area of
mhm.
glycoscience.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to look this up for this year and next year. And
hmm
yes, Scripps is just for our audience. Scripps is an absolute wealth of information. And I want to encourage our audience, just as a general, of don't think it's only for providers. It's for the public as well. So
Correct.
I think that's a critical point. And I would say, based on our experience with glyconutritional research, yours more than mine, because I was focused on, 2 mental health studies, but you were the coordinator of the studies, and that was
Right.
including multiple medical conditions. And I would say, based on that experience, there was a tremendous interest by the public in
There
those
really
studies.
is. And the incredible part to me was that, if I can just use you as an example, but the incredible part to me was that this was all done by volunteers. This was not a paid millions of dollars of research. This was,
Mm-hmm.
we'll
Mm-hmm.
supply the nutrients if you surrender your life for a year, get the
Mm-hmm.
volunteers together that you need to get together to
Mm-hmm.
have a minimum of 20 patients that go through this research, and you
That's right.
document baseline, you document the times that are prescribed in the protocol, and you document the final analysis, and then you write it up, and all that's done for free. And we had people coming out of the woodwork saying, "We'll do it. We want
It's
to be involved
incredible,
with
isn't it?
something that works."
Exactly. It is absolutely incredible. I know that's how I felt. I was at a conference and I'd heard about this, you know, was a leading speaker, a doctor who also had a public position, and he called for, he says, it's you doctors. You are the ones that's going to transform healthcare, the care of the patients. You need to take the lead. Oh, and I felt like the divine heavens were just hitting me over the head and said, Mary, you have to do this. You have to do this. And when I came home from that conference, almost instantaneously, there was so much, the word gets around quickly, there was so much support of our mental health studies locally. And as you said, Jim, it takes a lot of volunteers. I mean, we were not an established clinic that, oh, by the way, we're going to research instead of doing clinical work. I mean, we pulled this together. At one point, we had up to 22 volunteers in two locations. And they were faithful. They were on Saturday morning. They were there on time or early, and everybody quickly learned what to do. You know, there were, just so our listeners are aware, there were clinical roles. So, you know, we interviewed clinicians, licensed clinicians, who would be doing the monthly evaluations of the children and their families. And then we had worksheets that they would, you know, that our volunteers would then collect. And, you know, you have to have an organized way to collect and compile data. So, but then there were even more volunteers that were there to greet the families, make the families feel comfortable, kind of direct them to who was the next one to go for their evaluation. And what we used to do, Jim, we used to have, most often it was three workstations. So in private areas where the evaluators could do their work. So, but it takes a tremendous amount of organization.
Yes.
To do something like that. And then we had a doctor in Denver, and she donated her office, and we did the same thing up there. So, yeah, it really was. It was just, and people were so excited to be involved. It's like from the grassroots, there's a real need, a crying out of, we need better solutions. We're not dismissing mainstream medicine by any means, not by any means. And like we talked about yesterday, we proved that in our pilot trial, that the children who stayed on their medication did that much better by having a lowered side effects of the medications with the nutrients. So, and people are they're starving for this sort of information.
Well, it leads me to a question that I don't think anybody has the answer to yet. But we have referenced yesterday the scurvy incident, where sailors were dying of scurvy, and they went through all the medical treatments. Now, this was back in the 1700s, so it wasn't modern-day medicine, but it was the medical establishment of the day, and they died. The people who went through the medical establishment ultimately died, and it wasn't until Dr. James Lind, found the solution to the problem, and it was not medication. It was actually vitamin C, but it wasn't ascorbic acid vitamin C. It was vitamin C that was found naturally in lemons and limes and oranges that were on the trees. And so he would make this lemon lime rob that would be this juice, and the sailors would drink it and they would get well.
Exactly.
So my question is this: are the majority of the diseases that we have today induced by the body breaking down, or are they induced by God not creating our bodies perfectly, or are they induced by a lack of proper nutrition, the lack of proper fuel to allow our bodies to function optimally?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I sense that no matter what the condition, I think that there are medicines designed to help those people, but I also believe that nutritional intervention is key to the best recovery. You see this with cancer patients where they go through the traditional cancer treatments and the surgery, the chemotherapy and the radiation and so on. And you see study after study published and documented in PubMed that so that those who actually incorporated nutrition in addition to the medical treatments did much better than those who did the medical treatments alone.
That's
It's
right.
on every study that you read in terms of cancers. I haven't read every study that there is because there's a whole plethora of them.
Right.
But you can go through and you can put in cancer and nutrition in the search section of the of PubMed.org. I'm sorry, PubMed.gov, PubMed.gov, and it will bring up all the journal articles. These are major medical journals and some minor medical journals, but nonetheless, they're medical journals that are a library of information from all over the world that are published studies that are research like we did, but it's much more mainstream research than we did, and it's published in major journals.
That's right.
To be able to get that information out to people. The problem is that you can't associate healing or curing or mitigating or preventing disease condition with anything except for drugs, because Section 321G of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act actually says the definition of a drug is that which is intended to cure, treat, mitigate, prevent, or diagnose disease condition. But it does give the exception for nutritionally deficient diseases resulting from nutritional deficiencies. So the question is, and again, I don't have an answer, I don't pretend to have an answer, but the question is, do diseases have a nutritional deficiency, and is that the reason that we're seeing consistent results no matter what the disease condition when you add nutrients to the diet that are missing in the food chain?
Like we talked about yesterday. Okay, looking at the children's diets today, okay, heavily processed food. Okay, when we say processed, think of food in wrappers, with bright colors and, big advertisements and all of this. Okay, this is the diet, of a lot of our children. It's wrapped, it's convenient, but what is the nutritional depth of those foods? And I would say today, when I think about when we grew up, okay, when we were kids, okay, even if our families packed a lunch, it was more nutritious than the packed lunch that a lot of kids get today.
Yes.
And when I think about
the food wasn't processed.
The food wasn't processed. If you had turkey for dinner, you got a sandwich with sliced turkey the next day. And it wasn't a disposable society. And then the other thing is that the pesticides, there is such a heavy burden of pesticides in the soil, and all this is done, for commercial purposes and mass producing. But what are you doing? You're mass producing foods that are laced with pesticides, and we citizens are consuming it.
Hence the move toward organic, because organic foods are as free of pesticides as they can get.
That's exactly
but
right.
The problem is that when you spray fields, the wind blows and it blows some of that spray onto the organic fields as well. So it's not totally free of pesticides, but the intention is there to rid the foods that we eat of the pesticides that cause harm to the human body, rather than causing, just solid nutrition to come into the human body. So
That
that's
is
one
exactly
area
right.
that you can do. You can buy organic foods. Now, they cost more, mm, the- but the demand has really driven the price down on a lot of the organic produce
Mhm.
that that was superbly expensive before, and quite
Mhm.
frankly, it didn't taste good. and, and
Exactly.
so the combination of not tasting good and being more expensive was a deterrent for a while, but now foods taste good, and the organic
Exactly.
foods taste good. Really have a um, much better handle on the pricing and the taste of those foods.
Mhm.
And there are
Mhm.
supermarkets that are doing very, very well in marketing those foods. Sprouts,
Absolutely.
Whole Foods, there are a number of supermarkets, even Walmart selling organic foods, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
Goodness.
they do. They have a
And
very
yes,
nice organic selection, including, okay, let me give you an example, avocados. If you
yes,
go into your local Walmart, you can typically get a nice bag of organically grown avocados. Now, I will tell you another thing is that outside the US, there are a lot of countries that have no tolerance for anything but organic.
yes.
And our neighbor, Mexico, is one of them. Okay. So if you go to the local store and you look for these little peppers, okay, like a little bag of green, yellow, red peppers, many of them are from Mexico. And
Yes.
you'll see in the label, at least most of them, it's like, yeah, this is grown organically. So, yeah, we want to support them. We want to support them, and it's better for
Absolutely.
our health. You want your child eating that organic pepper. And
Yes.
now think of the nutrients there as opposed to something that was sliced, diced, and mixed, full of pesticides or
Hmm.
toxins, other toxins in. So these are things that we, I would say, as a public, need to get more savvy about. It used to be that to be very, uh, how would you say, transparent.
Hmm.
The truth be known, used to be like the small percentage of people were health savvy, health conscious. Now we're shifting. It's more and more people are becoming health conscious, health aware. I remember years ago, like to go to the health food store, it was like the top 5% or 10% of people were going to the
Right.
health food store. And that is not the
Right.
case today. Okay, this is becoming much more mainstream, which is
Hmm.
just awesome. Hence the importance of what we're doing here with Glycoscience, because we have this experience and this knowledge, and we really want to disseminate it to the public, and that the public understands what we experienced with the with glycoscience, glyconutrients, all of
Hmm.
the above.
Yeah, absolutely. While we're talking about the health food stores, God bless those who were the mom and pop shops who stuck it out through that horrible time, being some of them persecuted, some of them put in jail, some of them closed down by governing authorities because of the fact that they were were selling things in without knowing they were selling things that were, for heart disease or for liver damage or for, all kinds of stuff. And they were telling people,
Exactly.
this is what you need to buy for this.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
because of that stupid definition of a drug, I'm sorry but it is. Because of the stupid definition of a drug, you
Thank you.
had the governing authorities coming in and shutting down or putting
Mhm.
heavy fines on these stores and on these organizations that were
Mhm.
doing nothing except caring about people in the public. I know one pharmacist, her name was Mary, and she was she was introduced to these glyconutrients way back in the early days in the 1980s. And these AIDS patients would come in and they would ask her what to take for AIDS. And she would point out to them that, this aloe vera juice that was being sold was doing wonders for AIDS patients, and that's what they needed. And so there were a couple of government agents that came in and said, take for AIDS. And she said, well, there's this aloe juice that's just wonderful for AIDS patients. You know what? She was thrown in jail. She was taken in handcuffs and thrown in jail for 10 years. 10 years Mary was in jail because she recommended aloe juice to unknowing, just not knowing the fact that there was a consequence of that. She was thrown in jail for helping AIDS patients and to determine what to take. Horrendous.
It is.
What's happening?
It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
But it is an absolute outrage. And here, I remember the stories of the AIDS patients, and the progress they made was incredible. So from a humanitarian aspect, you're not making any claims. You're saying, you know what? This might help. That's all you're saying. This may help. You're not saying it's going to cure, treat, or mitigate a disease, but if it could help the quality of your life, well, my God, who wouldn't get a bottle of, good quality aloe juice and drink it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that transpired is Dr. Esmond Daniel, who is one of the premier scientists, really, in all of the world that has studied aloe and has done research upon research upon research. I mean, he has a plethora of research. I have the privilege of being his administrative assistant for years and still involved with him. But one of the incredible things is that the medical licensing board wanted to take his medical license away because he was helping AIDS patients. And they came in and they took him to court, and he didn't hire a lawyer. He represented himself, which they thought was very foolish. But do you know that he was able to maintain his medical license, and do you know why? It was because he wasn't selling the product to the AIDS patients, giving the product to AIDS patients, and there was no sale of product in consumption recommending the product to the AIDS patients. That's why he was able to maintain his medical license. Now, here's the lesson from this. Our mission together as far as global health and heart is to put out this information without tying it into the sales of any products. So we're able to educate people as long as we don't tie it into the sale of products. And our desire is to help people to understand how to manage their own health without selling them products. So you had the foresight years ago to put together a nonprofit, not-for-profit organization, which is an official 501c3 organization called Global Health and Heart. That's the DBA. It's Global Health Ministries that it's under. And we have a website, ghh.org, that is there to benefit the public. And if you want to donate to help us to further our mission and further our cause, to help the public to understand the power of these glyconutrients, the power of glycoscience, please go to ghh.world. It's ghh.world, yes. I think I said, so it's ghh.world. Click on the donate button and donate. If it's $1, if it's $10, if it's $20, if it's $1,000, we will appreciate every donation, and we will keep in touch with you over the course of the years to come, because of the fact that we want you to be able to understand the benefit and the current movements that are going on with relation to glycoscience and health.
That's
And
right.
I believe that there's a tremendous move coming that is not here yet, but Transforming Glycoscience actually, that book is about 200 pages long. That book actually says that very sparsely studied now. It's a very very specialized area of interest. It isn't widespread. The time is coming where it will be widespread, but wouldn't you rather be on the front end of that curve, even in the midst of this being in existence for the last 30 years? Wouldn't you rather be on the front end of that curve and live your life in the best way possible, in the most healthy way possible? Whether you're healthy or whether you're sick, it doesn't matter. If you give your body the nutrients that it needs to function, it's like giving a car gasoline or giving a truck diesel. If you switch those things around, you give a car diesel that has a gasoline engine, that car will die. If you give a truck gasoline and it has a diesel engine, that will die. It may run for a time, but will eventually die. The reality is that if you don't give your body the proper fuel to be able to run optimally, it will die prematurely. And that's how important this is. You need to know how to feed your body the right nutrients that are necessary for cell-to-cell communication. We are not here to sell product. We are not here to recommend product. We are not here to associate ourselves with product. You just need to know about these nutrients, and you need to find the best source of those products for yourself.
You know, I was looking at some quotes from the book Transforming Glycoscience, and they were talking about, the diverse background glycoscientists. They come from all sorts of fields, and in medicine, where the glyconutrients are involved in the development and progression of chronic infectious disease, meaning the blocking the progression of chronic and infectious disease. Well, we need to know about that.
Yes.
And then they were talking about in microbiology, these glycans are key players in interactions among and between microbes and host cells. So in immune function, the study of glycoscience is absolutely imperative. You know, we just came off this massive pandemic, and so it's time to raise awareness of the critical importance of glycoscience, of science. Now, I will say this, it's also in material science. These glycans can be used as polymeric materials with a wide range of properties. And we'll talk about more of this in other broadcasts, but I'm just trying to lay out the broad picture of how pervasive it affects, glycoscience affects every area of our lives.
Yes, it does.
Yes, every area and every aspect, down to the tiniest cell, and how that cell interacts in the body.
And the whole area of, you're talking about fuels, you're talking about plastics, you're talking about things that go way beyond just the health aspect of things. Our plastics currently are made of oil, and that's what doesn't allow them to be biodegradable.
Right.
Well, if we convert, and companies are starting to do this, if we convert our plastics to plant-based plastics instead of oil-based plastics, those plant-based plastics deteriorate and go back into the soil, where the oil-based plastics stay for hundreds and thousands of years and don't have any biodegradability.
That's
So there's some exciting stuff in that regard too. Now that's not our specialty, but it is all in that Transforming Glycoscience book, and that's a wonderful, wonderful book to be able to begin to understand the importance of this whole area of glycoscience. Now, the question that I have, and I believe that the Transforming Glycoscience book actually addresses this to a degree, if I'm not mistaken. Why is it that kids and adults are so attracted to sugar? Not the sugars that we need, not the biological sugars that are necessary for self-supplementation, but sucrose and saccharin and those kinds of things. Why are we so attracted to sugar?
I think, Tim, one reason is they target the reward centers of the brain, and it's like an addicting drug. People just want it, and they ask anybody who's had one bite of chocolate. You hear many people say this, I can't have it in my house because if I eat one, I'll eat the whole box or I'll eat the whole bag. And I have seen kids dive into cereal boxes and just gorge themselves on this highly, processed, sugary cereal. And they're just eating more. No, it's not because they're hungry. There's just something that gets triggered in the brain. And it's like, oh my God, and I cannot stop.
Doesn't that trigger in the brain come from man-made deficiency in the proper sugars that we have in our diet? And could it be that the sugar companies that are making and selling this sugar are capitalizing on the deficiencies that we have in our diet, and they know that our bodies are starving of these sugars, and they're supplying an artificial supply of them and making millions and billions of dollars doing it?
That's right. That's exactly right. And, we consumers need to be more savvy. I mean, we had all kinds of questions from parents, and even afterwards but the parents that they had awareness, they could ask the questions. You don't know what you don't know, and it's like they didn't know it was a problem, so they weren't asking the questions. But people will say now, they'll say, you know what? There's foods I can't even have in the house because if you have a bite, you're going to eat the whole box.
Right.
And invariably, it's not hunger. It's not at all hunger. It bypasses the hunger mechanism.
Still a deficiency.
Exactly.
One of the things that Reg discovered, Dr. Reg McDaniel, he discovered that if you give an alcoholic the biological sugars that are needed for proper cell-to-cell communication, they no longer can drink a 24-pack of beer. They only have one or two. And by golly, he told the alcoholics that, and they said, well, we don't want any part of that. We enjoy a beer. And so he would tell them, well, this will help with the hangover aspect of it. And they would then take the glyconutrients, and lo and behold, their beer intake would automatically cut down.
Oh, my God.
The reason for that is because mannose is raised by the untold tons in the grain fields and in the wheat fields of the country, in the rice paddies. And so you have you have mannose that's on every cell in the body that's naturally produced, that's stripped away when the grain is processed, and stripped away when the white rice is processed, and stripped away when the wheat is processed. So you have an artificial deficiency of grain. Of mannose in your diet. And when people drink alcohol, when they drink beer, they're actually thinking, and their brains are thinking, that they're getting the nutrients that they need, but they're not, because they're stripped out. So they're drinking, more and more and more to try to fill that hunger. And that alcoholism is based on hunger. Well, what's that hunger for? It's for the sugars that are necessary for cell-to-cell communication. So when you supply those sugars through a different source, these alcoholics are no longer craving the alcohol because of the fact they have the sugars, the proper nutrients for cell-to-cell communication from another source. Isn't that something that you have that kind of a response with an addictive behavior? And isn't that something that we saw in your study with the addictive behavior, with the behavioral issues that come with ADHD and bipolar, that when you provided these nutrients, these same nutrients, because these are critical nutrients for every cell in your body. They are not nutrients to cure alcoholism or to cure bipolar. Don't get me wrong. These are structure function nutrients. They are providing the structure of the cell, the necessary components that are necessary for cell-to-cell communication. And when you have proper cell-to-cell communication, your body has the ability and knows how to heal itself. And so that's really the whole idea. That's the whole structure between and it's the gap between what we have in our diets versus what we need in terms of our dietary needs.
Exactly. And it is so essential that the public understands this. That's why we're doing this, Jim. You know, a small percentage of scientists that we collaborated with understand this. But now it's time to get this vital information out to the public.
Exactly. And that's why we're putting together what we're putting together.
Exactly. The series on transforming glycoscience really ultimate is that this vital information get brought to the public and that is easily understood, because you know as well as I can, we have set in countless lectures, and I'm not minimizing it because I've learned so much, but when it's so complex, you know, people that are not, you know, involved with science are like, what is this? This is so overwhelming. Yeah, so we really don't want it to be overwhelming. We want it to be digestible for people, that they can take in the information.
Well, one of the most relevant recent things is the virus that affected every human being around the earth, and all of us know about it. And what we found in the research was that there is a mannose and a fucose, and there probably are more, but there's a mannose and fucose molecule, there's a mannose and fucose cell on the end of every virus cell in the body. So when you're invaded with a virus, there's a mannose cell that attaches itself to that virus, and it calls out and asks the destroyer, the destroyer cells, the natural killer cells, the macrophages and so on. It calls out and says, come, destroy these. They do not belong in the body. But if there is not recognition because you don't have the mannose and the fucose in your diet, that's not fructose, that's fucose. If you don't have mannose and fucose in your body, then those signals go out and they have no response because of the fact that you don't have the proper tools necessary for them to send out that message to kill these virus cells.
That's right.
So the question is, if that's true, and you can go to PubMed and find this, if that's true, then isn't it true that with any kind of virus thing that comes along that threatens our health, isn't it true that we need to add mannose and fucose to our diet in addition to vitamin D, because every person that got COVID apparently had vitamin D deficiency. Most of the people did, and most people had vitamin C deficiency, and most of the people had zinc deficiency. So if you add vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc to the diet, then you've solved a huge component. And I'm not saying there's a cure for COVID. That's not what I'm saying.
Not
But
at all.
if you provide the body with the nutrients that it needs to function properly,
That's it.
and if you provide the body with the nutrients that it needs for the structure of the cell to function properly with proper cell-to-cell communication, then you have something that will resist any virus that comes up. Now, is there any medication that's effective for viruses? No. But are there nutrients that are effective to help your body to defend against viruses that invade? Yes.
Yeah, there are antiviral medications, Jim, but honestly,
Are they effective?
it's a hit or miss response. It's a hit or miss. So if you know these are going to work and are well tolerated for your body because it's based on what the body needs, wouldn't you want to learn that information?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we started out this call, and it's true. We need to take all the medical advice. I mean, it's a both-and thing. It's an integrated thing. You need to take all the medical advice that comes from your doctor, and this does not include that.
That's right.
You need to take all of the nutrient advice that comes from your own knowledge, and at this point, there aren't a whole lot of credible nutrients and nutritionals out there that know about glycoscience. So you need to research for yourself. I mean, there's a plethora of information on the internet to research, and then find the best sources of those nutrients to take. And there are a variety of sources out there. I mean, we're not there to say this is the only source. There are a lot of sources
not at all.
that you can take, both in your food and in dietary supplements.
Right. That's exactly right. But the education at the ground level, it really starts here because has been no, what would you say, widespread public education about the potential benefits of glycoscience. And I think the time is now because, Jim, when this book was published, they were saying it's like, wow, we've got this wealth of scientific information but it's time that we look and overcome the obstacles and move this field forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it can be life-saving. You know, going back to those AIDS patients, it can be life-saving. So,
it can, and many times it has.
And it has been, and will be. But again, we're not saying that anything cures, treats, or mitigates the disease. That's not what this is about. It's about providing the body what it needs to function optimally.
Can I share a little bit about a ministry that's a nonprofit ministry that gets these nutrients to children worldwide?
Oh, absolutely.
And there's a ministry called Manna Relief Ministries. And these nutrients are given to children worldwide that could never afford them on a retail basis. But they actually give these nutrients to children, and they take the profits of sales of these nutrients, and they provide the nutrients through the profits. I mean, these aren't free. So what they do is they actually take these nutrients from a company's sales. We cannot name the company, but they take these nutrients from a company's sales of products, and they've provided over 50 million servings of these nutrients to children who desperately need them around the world. And if you want to support the efforts of Manna Relief Ministries, go to their website, mannarelief.org, and donate to them. They're not paying us to share this. Matter of fact, we're committing to give them a certain amount every month from the donations that are given to us because of the fact that we believe in what they're doing. And their ministry, their mission is to bring life-giving supplements to people around the world and to share the love of Jesus with these people so that they have life. Because many of these orphans and orphanages around the world do not have life. Many of the people that are helping folks with sex trafficking that's so rampant today and shamefully rampant, these nutrients are given to those people. These nutrients are given to people in Mexico with Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico, overseeing these kids getting these nutrients on a daily basis, and his wife Marta. This is just an incredible, very little known ministry that is doing incredible work around the world. It's where I started working with Dr. Reg McDaniel, and I was the administrative assistant to Dr. Reg, and I was also a research coordinator. And we did research with volunteer doctors that we mentioned at the front. We did research on multiple conditions, and every condition we did research on, we saw results with. There was scleroderma, there was scoliosis, there was Alzheimer's, there was AIDS, cancer. There's just a plethora of research that's been done out there that we believe needs more credibility. Unfortunately, when you have volunteers, the naysayers come in and they say that these people aren't qualified, or the research isn't qualified, or this or the other thing. But we have shown that these nutrients actually benefit people with multiple conditions, not because of the fact that they cure these conditions, but because of the fact that the structure of the human body requires these nutrients to be available to feed every cell in the body so that the body can heal itself. This is not about curing disease. This is about giving the body the nutrients so that the body can function optimally well. And I've been healthy all my life. I've been taking these nutrients for 30 years. And I have no issues as far as health goes, and I won't have issues as far as health goes. If I do, I'll take more of these nutrients. But I take them daily. They are a part of my daily routine. They are part of my daily diet. Why? Because I have diabetes or heart disease or cancer or AIDS or fibromyalgia? No. It's because I want to have a healthy, functioning immune system that has proper cell-to-cell communication, and I believe that my body needs these on a daily basis to be able to heal itself. And I've been healthy for all my life, but these last 30 years have been extremely healthy. I'm 62 years old. I'm getting to be an old guy, but I don't feel well. And I really believe that we're going to see a differentiation between those who have been taking these nutrients, I think we can see it now, and those who aren't, because of the fact that these are widely needed for the human body to function optimally well. That's my story. I'm a truck driver. I am not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. That's what I do for a living. I drive truck, and I'm not doing this so I can retire from truck driving and start doing, dabbling about glycoscience. The reason that I'm doing this is because I want other people to be healthy. My mother, she takes these nutrients. She's 86 years old. She doesn't have Alzheimer's. She doesn't have dementia. She doesn't have any kind of health issues whatsoever. Right. I have other friends that are in their 80s and 90s, and they've been taking these for years. And it's never too late to start. Don't wait until you have a condition to try to cure it with these nutrients. That's not what this is about. Put it in your body as far as fuel in, like fuel in your car, and your body will function. It's that simple.
And Jim, on the Mana Relief website, it says, since 1999, we have provided 150 million servings of nutrition to 90 countries.
Oh, wow.
90 countries. And I remember hearing the stories of orphanages in Romania, and when this just started, and the headmaster would call and say, please send more, because when the cold hits, we would lose X number of children every year. And what he said, I've never forgotten this, Jim. He said the children that had the nutrients were spared.
They were spared. They didn't have anybody die, and they only had half of their children go to the hospital that normally would go to the hospital during the year.
Exactly.
You know, that was back in the days when we had a gummy bear filled with these nutrients, and they would take one gummy bear a day per child, and that's what we supplied with the orphanages. I mean, what a marvelous testimony of just the amazing benefits of getting these nutrients to kids.
Exactly.
You know, 150 million servings, that's huge.
Exactly. In 90 countries.
In 90 countries around the world. I started working in Manor Relief in 2002. My ex-wife started working there in 2001, and we saw the growth from the very, very beginning to where it is now. Certainly in the 5 years that we were there, 4 or 5 years, it's just amazing to see how these kids' lives were transformed. We would have testimonies. You know that while I was there, the government said that we could not share those testimonies because they said that we were tied in with a company that was selling those products, and so we couldn't share those testimonies because that would be promoting the sales of a product. And so we had to withdraw all of those testimonies off of the website. What a shame! And I'm telling you, I mean, you think we live in a cancel culture now? I mean, it has been going on for years. And this whole thing of canceling and suppressing information that people desperately need to know how to live life, you know? Exactly. Well.
Exactly. It is potentially life-saving information. And that's why, Jim, we talked before, and we said we knew at some point each of us felt a calling to do this. We really needed word out about glycoscience. I remember having dreams that if this information doesn't get out to the world, it's just going to be buried. It'll be buried in the annals of history, and nobody will know. And oh my word, what a shame. What an absolute shame.
Well, one of the studies, we'll probably get into this on a subsequent call. I'm so sorry. But if we can just kind of touch base with it right now, on the chh.world website, there is a abstract from the Alzheimer's study that was published in the Journal of Alzheimer's. And if anybody is concerned about Alzheimer's, both currently, family-wise, or just concerned about it for the future, read that abstract. It is just incredible. The things that they've found that improve, not were suppressed, not that were, they slowed down the progress from the Alzheimer's disease. They improved in their memory and cognition. 46% of the patients actually improved in a statistically significant way and improved on their Alzheimer's scores. And what an incredible study that showed improvement in something that just doesn't have improvement. And do you know that Alzheimer's has more money spent in terms of care today than cancer and heart disease combined? There's more money spent in the realm of Alzheimer's than in heart disease and cancer combined. It is the most expensive disease condition in our country that is sucking down dollars into the healthcare system. Well, there are some people that benefit from that, but I'm telling you, there aren't very many. And there are a whole lot of people who aren't benefiting that really need to know the rest of the story. Read that abstract, and if you desire to have the whole study, email us. Mary, what's our email address?
Well, there will be on the website a place where you can email.
Yes, just hit contact us, and we'll answer back and get you the full study. But if you have a concern about things like Alzheimer's, and again, we're not substituting for doctor's care. We're simply giving you the information that has already been out there since 2013, but nobody knows about it because it's been suppressed. So we desire to get that information out to the people who really desire it. Please email us and request that, and we would be happy to send you a copy. And if you can donate, once again, please donate. If you can't, we understand that. We're not about taking people's money. We're about getting this information out to the world. So whether you donate or not, we will be happy to send you whatever information you need to help you. That's what we're
Absolutely. About. And I'll be honest, if you have friends or family with a family member or friend that's afflicted with Alzheimer's, they need to know this information. They need to have this information, and because the truth is, Alzheimer's is considered an irreversible disease. Irreversible and all-consuming. And as you said very well, Jim, the cost of Alzheimer's is it's catastrophic. And a lot of it is because, at end-stage Alzheimer's, people need total care, total for the basic functions of life. They're not able to perform them. So if there was hope that there was some improvement, then isn't that worth everything? And for families and friends of people afflicted with Alzheimer's, it is. But we need to get the word out. We need to be informed and let our friends and family know.
And so if you know of anybody who has Alzheimer's, look at the abstract. It's not difficult to understand. It's a little bit of a medical language, and there's some details in it that you probably won't understand. That's okay. Look at the conclusions that happened with that study. And if you desire to have the full information from that study, to have those that have Alzheimer's take it to their doctors and give them the information that's needed before you make a decision of moving forward with giving nutrients in addition to the doctor's care. Please feel free to email us and ask for that copy so that we can get this information out to those who desperately need it. We'd appreciate it, and I'm sure that your friends and relatives and someone would appreciate it too. We had people in that study actually remembering their relatives. We had people who were in bed and totally unable to care for themselves, getting out of bed, feeding themselves, washing themselves, and so on and so forth. This is done in the largest Alzheimer's facility in Florida and by the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. This was not a slop study. It was not a voluntary study. We would like to raise money for a subsequent study that shows even better results because of what we understand now. But my goodness, please, 2013, that's only 10 years old. We would love to be able to get this word out to people that desperately need it and help guide you in terms of making whatever decisions need to be made. Again, not to make money. We're going to sell you a product. We just want to get you information that's necessary for your loved ones to be able to get well, or at least to be able to live an optimally healthy life for the rest of their days while they're here on Earth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim. And another benefit in the Alzheimer's study was percentage of patients who were aggressive. There was a marked absence of aggression. They were calm. They anybody knows Alzheimer's patients, like especially those that are institutionalized, aggression, especially, if they really lose cognition, is a huge problem. That's why you see patients with those little soft restraints and all of this. So there was a marked absence of aggression, meaning they were calm, they weren't hitting anybody, they were, more redirectable. And ask any family member with of an Alzheimer's patient who is acting aggressive. It's cool.
You're going to make people think this is melatonin or something. It ain't melatonin.
We just want to get the word out. We just want to get the word out.
Yes. Oh, my.
Anyway, Jim, this has been absolutely delightful. Thank you so much. I think we're losing you. I think we're losing you.
What's that?
I said we were losing you there.
Oh, down a hill. I'm going through Texas, so on my way to California. All right.
Great, Jim.
Thank you so much, Mary. We really appreciate it, and so blessed to be a part of this. Thank you for everything you're doing and putting this together.
We'll talk soon. All right, then.
God bless you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.